Dashain celebrations have continued today, a day after Vijaya Dashami Tika. People continue receiving Tika and Jamara today as well, while there is an age-old tradition of receiving Tika, Jamara and the blessings of the elders till Kojagrat Purnima, or the full moon day on the 20th of this month, when this year's Dashain festival will formally come to a conclusion. Good evening, I'm Sapsanamma. Let's begin with the headlines of the hour. The festive mood continues as people receive Tika and Jamara a day after Vijaya Dashami with much fanfare. Tika to be received until Kojagrat Purnima coming Saturday. Poor implementation of budget witnessed in the first quarter of the ongoing fiscal year. No task mechanism in place to utilize budget. UN's relief agency in Gaza says it will be forced to halt its operations tonight due to lack of fuel. Israel blocks visas for UN officials over recent comments by Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And UAE lose to Hong Kong in the Tri-Nation T20I series. UAE to take on Nepal in the final despite the loss. Australia playing the Netherlands at the World Cup. On the second day of Bada Dashain today, young members of families are continuing to receive Tika, Jamara and blessings from their elders. Vijaya Dashami celebrations were observed yesterday on the 10th day of the ongoing festival. Those who were not able to receive Tika, Jamara and blessings from elders on the main day yesterday are receiving them today. The Nepal Calendar Determination Committee has said that Tika can be received until the full moon day of Kojagrat Purnima this Saturday. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Home Affairs Naren Kaji Shrestha has returned to Nepal. The Deputy Prime Minister had suffered a cardiac arrest during his visit to China and was admitted to a hospital in Beijing and has returned home following treatment. He had been discharged from the Peking Union Medical College Hospital in Beijing 2 days ago after being treated for 5 days. The Deputy Prime Minister had suffered a cardiac arrest on 18th of October while he was in Beijing to attend the 3rd Belt and Road Forum for International Operation. Sources have said that his health condition is currently stable. The master plan developed by the Pashupati Area Development Trust last year for the development of Pashupati area has yet to be implemented. The master plan proposed 4 years ago was endorsed by the Pashupati Area Development Trust and forwarded to the Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation. However, the ministry is yet to reach a decision on the proposal. The government had included a plan to develop Pashupatinath area listed in the World Heritage Sites as a model region for religion, culture and tourism in the fiscal year 2057-58 BS. Back then, Pashupati Area Master Plan 2056 was implemented, which concluded in 2068. After the devastating earthquake of 2072, severely damaged several parts or heritages of Pashupatinath temple area, erstwhile Member Secretary Govinda Tandon introduced a master plan. However, despite the lapse of 8 years, the damaged structures have yet to be completely renovated despite the lapse of 8 years. The master plan proposed to the Council of Ministers 4 years ago when Pradeep Kumar Dhakal was the Member Secretary was returned for revision following additional discussions. The following year, a revised master plan prepared after discussions and study by a committee formed by the ministry had reached the ministry for review. The master plan prepared by the PADT includes projects of more than 33 billion rupees. The master plan includes programs including development of Pashupatinath as an international pilgrimage site, conservation of tangible and intangible cultural and historic heritages of archaeological significance, and disaster management, among others. The trust was established in the year 2044 BS with the objective of ensuring planned development of the Pashupatinath area. However, political appointments and intervention at the trust have led to the failure of the trust in ensuring effective implementation of its plans. Despite the government introducing the budget on the 15th of Jyeshtha as per the Nepali calendar, ministers have appeared slow in ensuring the effective implementation even by the month of Kartik. Most ministries have claimed that working procedures have not been formulated for the implementation of several programs. The National Production and Employment Promotion Program and Innovation and Entrepreneurship Program of 7 billion rupees has remained uncertain. Programs under agriculture including production, subsidies, production and promotion of native crops and technical services have also yet to come into implementation. Budget implementation is facing challenges as working procedures have yet to be formulated. Programs related to transferring barren land for productive purpose has also yet to be implemented. Meanwhile, restructuring of the Prime Minister Employment Program and the program regarding opportunities for youth returning from foreign employment are yet to be implemented as well. Lack of political interest and willpower of the bureaucracy have been identified as the major reasons for the delay in implementation of the programs announced by the government. Prime Minister Agriculture Modernization Project Implementation Unit Chhapa declared 9 local levels as rubber zones. As around 95% rubber is imported, the zones were declared with the objective of replacing the imports with domestic production. Despite the declaration of the zones 5 years ago, imports are yet to be reduced. Rubber farming gained popularity in Jhapa following the establishment of Gorakali rubber industry. Shantiram Bastola of Jhapa Buddha Shanti III planted rubber plants on 1 biga of his land in the Nepali year 2052. Gorkhali rubber industry had supported the farmers. However, after the industry itself began facing crisis, it was out of business. Farmers had then tried selling the trees they had planted. However, they are now earning good amount of money from the same rubber plants. Of the 21.7 million rupees allocated by the government for the rubber zone, only 16.2 million has been spent. The main objective is to increase production and expand farming area. Despite a notable rise in production, area remains to be expanded. Rubber farmers have said that quality has improved following subsidies in irrigation, cutting, machineries and equipment. The domestic rubber is of higher quality than that of imports. Around 50,000 goods are produced from rubber, while 95% of rubber is imported. In order to curb imports, plantation must be increased, for which the local levels have a major part to play. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. The question is, what should be done to ensure the efficiency of the Nagarik app? Your options are A. Increase digital awareness, B. Increase trustworthiness, and C. Integrate app with service delivery. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for international update. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency working in Gaza has said it will be forced to halt its operations tonight due to a lack of fuel, exacerbating a grave humanitarian crisis. Vital fuel supplies needed to run hospitals, pump and desalinate water and power bakeries are on the verge of running out, with the main aid agency in Gaza warning the deep humanitarian crisis is getting worse by the hour. Nearly 600,000 internally displaced people are sheltering in the 150 UNRWA facilities across Gaza, with these shelters 4 times over their capacity. At least 40 of its installations have been impacted and many others are sleeping on the streets. Without fuel, water cannot be pumped or desalinated, which has left people in Gaza forced to drink dirty, salty water. Generators that power hospitals for incubators, ventilators and dialysis machines, as well as to sterilize surgical equipment, will also come to a stop. According to UN representative, Gaza needs at least 160,000 liters of fuel a day for basic necessities. 6 hospitals in Gaza have already been forced to close due to a lack of fuel since the start of Israel's full siege, in fact, of the territory 2 weeks ago, according to World Health Organization. Doctors working in Gaza's largest hospital say the hospital will become a mass grave if it runs out of fuel. Only 8 out of the 28 trucks that were originally scheduled to enter Gaza through the Rafah crossing went through on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Israel has blocked visas for UN officials following comments made by Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in which he appealed for a ceasefire and said clear violations of international humanitarian law were happening in Gaza. Israel's ambassador to the UN said Israel will halt a visa for UN officials following comments made by Secretary General Antonio Guterres about the crisis in the Middle East. Among his remarks on Tuesday to the Security Council, Guterres said Hamas's October 7 attacks on Israel did not happen in a vacuum. Israel has already rejected a visa application by the UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator Martin Griffiths. Guterres said Hamas's attack on southern Israel came amid years of suffocating occupation suffered by Palestinians at the hands of Israeli forces. In his own words, Guterres said they have seen their land steadily devoured by settlements and plagued by violence. Amnesty International has said Israel's collective punishment of Gaza civilians amounts to a war crime. Elsewhere, Jordan's Queen Rania has accused Western leaders of glaring double standard for failing to condemn the deaths of civilians under Israeli bombardment in Gaza. U.S. military advisors are urging Israel to avoid an all-out ground assault, while Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appeared to tell soldiers yesterday that a ground offensive was still on track. U.S. military advisors have reminded of the lessons of Iraq in urging Israelis to avoid all-out ground assault in Gaza. Israeli strikes have since killed more than 5,000 people in Gaza, including 2,055 children, according to Palestinian Health Ministry. The medical system across the Gaza Strip has now completely collapsed as overrun hospitals have just hours of fuel reserves left, Palestinian Health Minister Mai Al-Kaila has said. The health official announced that 12 of Gaza's 35 hospitals have completely closed amid the ongoing conflict with Israel, accounting for about a third of all facilities, while emergency rooms across the enclave have been unable to admit new casualties since midday Tuesday. The situation has been compounded by dwindling medical supplies, equipment and fuel, with current staff being able to maintain only 30 to 35% of necessary treatment capacity. As of Tuesday, 65 medical workers were killed in the conflict and over 100 have been injured. Many more are unable to reach clinics due to destroyed roads. Medics who are on duty are exhausted from dealing with the round-the-clock trauma cases and are working under horrific conditions as supplies are hopelessly stretched. Stressing the urgent humanitarian crisis, Al-Kaila called on Israel to allow access of fuel, medicines and relief into Gaza and appealed to international community to help alleviate this dire humanitarian crisis. Meanwhile, desperate residents of Gaza, Khan Yunis, on Friday turned to alternative methods of transportation to move a body to the cemetery for burial as they struggle to use cars due to fuel shortages. Relatives of a man who was killed in a building collapse loaded his body onto a donkey-drawn cart and sat alongside him as they made their way through the crowded streets. Stopping outside the cemetery, the donkey stood bearing its load as the relatives prayed for the victim. Israeli military said yesterday it would bar the entry of fuel to Gaza to prevent Hamas from seizing it. Russia's parliament completed the passage of a law today that withdraws Moscow's ratification of the global treaty banning nuclear weapons tests. The upper house, the Federation Council, approved the law by 156 votes to 0. After the lower house, the Duma, had also passed it unanimously. It now goes to President Vladimir Putin for signing. Putin urged lawmakers earlier this month to make the change in order to mirror the position of the United States, which signed but never ratified the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Russia says it will not resume nuclear testing unless Washington does, but arms control experts are concerned it may be inching towards a test that the West would perceive as a threatening escalation in the context of Ukrainian conflict. Pollution levels in the Indian capital remain poor today, a day after effigies of Hindu demon king Ravana were burnt across the country as part of Dussehra festival. The National Air Quality Index measured air quality as poor on Wednesday, with PM10 as the major pollutant in several parts of New Delhi, while PM2.5 was measured above 100. The index measures the concentration of tiny particles that can lodge deep in the lungs and cause serious ailments, known as fine particulate matter, PM2.5, from their diameter of 2.5 micrometers or less. Levels above 60 are considered unhealthy. People have started wearing masks as a precautionary measure to avoid respiratory problems amid the rising pollution, while some complain of discomfort in eyes and breathing. Japan's top court ruled earlier today that a legal clause requiring people to undergo sterilization surgery if they wanted to legally change their gender was unconstitutional. while rights group welcomed the landmark verdict. A decision by the judges to ask a lower court to deliberate on a separate clause requiring that the genital organs of people who want to change their gender resemble those of the opposite gender was met with disappointment. Japanese law states that people who want to change their gender must present a diagnosis of gender dysphoria and meet 5 requirements. The plaintiff's lawyers, Kazuyuki Minami and Masafumi Yoshida, argued that the 2 of the requirements violated their client's constitutional right to pursue happiness and live without discrimination and posed significant physical pain and financial burden to transgender people. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.